On August 28, 1984, 18-year-old waitress Elisabeth Fritzl went missing. Her mother, Rosemary, quickly filed a missing persons report. She was frantic over the whereabouts of her daughter. For weeks, they heard nothing from Elisabeth, and her parents were left to assume the worst. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, a letter arrived from Elisabeth. In the letter, she wrote that she had grown tired of her life and had ran away. Her father, Joseph, told a police officer who came to the house that he had no idea where she could possibly go, but that she likely joined a religious cult, something she had previously talked about. But the truth was far more sinister than that. Josef Fritzl knew exactly where his daughter was. She was 20 feet below where the police officer was standing. Hi everyone, today we'll be talking about the story of Josef Fritzl and his horrendous crime that shocked the world. If you're interested in dark and mysterious stories, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on all notification buttons to stay updated on all of our latest videos. Let's continue. On August 28, 1984, Joseph called his daughter into the basement of the family home. He was refitting a door to the newly renovated cellar and needed some help to carry it. So, the plan was for Elisabeth to hold the door while Joseph fixed it into place. As soon as it was on the hinges, he swung the door open, forcing Elisabeth inside and knocked her unconscious with an ether-soaked towel. For the next 24 years, the inside of the dirt wall cellar would be the only thing Elisabeth Fritzl would see. Joseph would constantly lie to his wife and the police, and he fed them stories about how she had run away and joined a cult. Eventually, the police investigation into her whereabouts went cold, and before long, the world would soon forget about the missing Elisabeth Fritzl. While the world forgot about Elisabeth, Joseph never did, and he made that very clear to his daughter over the next 24 years. As far as the rest of the Fritzl family was concerned, Joseph would head down to the basement every morning at 9 AM to draw plans for the machines that he sold. Joseph was working as an electrician at the time. Occasionally, he would spend the night in the basement, but his wife wouldn't worry as she thought that her husband was a hardworking man who was just focused on his career. But the reality was far more grim for Elisabeth Fritzl. At the minimum, he would visit her in the basement 3 times a week. Usually it was every day. For the first 2 years, he left her alone, keeping her captive. Then, he began to sexually assault her. 2 years into her captivity, Elisabeth became pregnant, but she miscarried 10 weeks into the pregnancy. 2 years later, she would get pregnant again, and on August of 1988, a baby girl named Kristen was born. 2 years later, Elisabeth would give birth to a baby boy named Stefan. Kristen and Stefan remained in the cellar with their mother for the duration of her imprisonment, being brought weekly rations of food and water by Joseph, who was effectively the kids' father and grandfather at the same time. Elisabeth attempted to teach the kids with the rudimentary education she had and give them the most normal life she could under such horrific circumstances. Over the next 24 years, Elisabeth would give birth to 5 more children. 1 more was allowed to remain in the basement with her, 1 died shortly after birth, and the other 3 were taken upstairs to live with Rosemary and Joseph. In order to cover up his crimes, Joseph staged elaborate acts. He would place the children in the bushes near his home and act like he had found them. Each time, the child that he found would be wrapped neatly and accompanied with a note allegedly written by Elisabeth, claiming that she couldn't take care of the baby and was leaving it with the parents for safekeeping. It is not known how long Josef Fritzl intended to keep his daughter captive in his basement. He had gotten away with it for 24 years. And for all the police knew, he was going to continue to imprison Elisabeth and his kids forever. However, in 2008, one of the children, Kristen, fell very ill. Elisabeth begged Joseph to allow her now 19-year-old daughter Kristen to get medical attention. She had fallen critically ill and Elisabeth was in a state of panic. Reluctantly, Joseph agreed to take her to a hospital. He removed Kristen from the cellar and called for an ambulance, claiming that he had a note from Kirsten's mother explaining her condition. For a week, police questioned Kirsten and asked the public for any information on her family. Naturally, no one came forward, as by all measures of the law, she had no family. The police eventually grew suspicious of Josef and reopened the investigation into Elisabeth's disappearance. They would comb through the letters that Elisabeth had supposedly been leaving for the Fritzls and began to see inconsistencies in them. Whether Josef finally felt the pressure or had a change of heart regarding his daughter's captivity, we will never know. But on April 26, 2008, he released Elisabeth from the cellar for the first time in 24 years. She immediately went to the hospital to see her daughter, where the hospital staff alerted the police. That very night, she was taken into custody to be questioned about Kirsten's illness and her father's story. After making the police promise she never had to see her father again, Elisabeth told the police about her shocking 24-year imprisonment by her own father. She explained to the police that her father had kept her in the basement and that she bore 7 children. She explained that Josef was the father of all 7 of them and that Josef would come down during the middle of the night, make her watch adult films and then sexually assault her. She went on to say that he had been abusing her ever since she was 11. Upon hearing about the truth, the police arrested Josef Fritzl that very night. After the arrest, the children in the cellar were also released and Rosemary Fritzl fled the home. She had allegedly known nothing about the events taking place right under her nose, as whenever there were any noises coming from the cellar, Josef would blame it on a faulty pipe. The trial of Josef Fritzl commenced on March 16, 2009. On March 19, 2009, he was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for 15 years. Josef Fritzl is now 85 and is now serving his life sentence in a special prison unit for the criminally insane in Austria's Kremstein prison. As for Elisabeth Fritzl, she now lives under a new identity in a secret Austrian village known only as Village X. The home is under constant CCTV surveillance and police patrol every corner. The family has rejected any requests for interviews by the press. Though she is now in her 50s, the last photo taken of Elisabeth Fritzl was when she was just 16 years old. A sad testament to a young life that was robbed of its innocence. Anyway guys, that's it for today. Drop a comment down below on what you think of this video. If you have other stories you wish for me to cover, leave a comment and a link for me to look deeper into it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our latest videos. I'll see you in our next Campfire Stories. Thank you for watching.